The Republican Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, is working for the Democrats.
Yeah, it's that simple. I mean, and that's one of the reasons we went through with the motion to vacate. Paul Gosar and I co-sponsored Marjorie's motion to vacate. There were ultimately 11 of us who voted for it.
Motion to vacate would be to fire him.
To fire Speaker Johnson, just like they had done Kevin McCarthy. Although I thought inappropriately and at the wrong time and for the wrong reasons, they did that to McCarthy. But here we had Speaker Johnson, who was doing all of the things people were afraid McCarthy might do. They pre-convicted McCarthy for things they thought he would do. And here Mike Johnson came and did all these things. He put an omnibus on the floor. He passed the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, re-upped that without warrants, built the FBI a new building and gave Ukraine all this money. So what happened, what Marjorie and I and Paul decided ultimately is we needed to expose the uniparty. And never before have you had Democrats vote for a Republican speaker. And that's why we forced the question. Nancy Pelosi voted for him. Hakeem Jeffries went on national TV and said, why would we want to get rid of him? He's given us everything we want. I mean, the uniparty has never been so exposed as it was when we called that motion to vacate. I know some people got mad at us, said we shouldn't have done it, but it's a long game. We certainly hope that he doesn't become speaker next January. And hopefully people will have seen with Nancy Pelosi rushing to Speaker Johnson's aid that he's not the speaker you want when Trump wins the White House and we keep the majority.
Do you think he will be?
A lot of this depends on what the people want. And if they can see it, hopefully also Trump sees it, that Mike Johnson would be even worse than Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan while we were still in the majority, Paul Ryan sent like a dozen CRs or omnibus bills to President Trump's desk that didn't have any money for a wall in it. Like, he had no intention of ever funding a wall. Paul Ryan did. And so I think Mike Johnson is going to be similarly the same way. He's basically working for the deep state at this point in the uniparty.
How did that happen? Do you have any idea?
The Paul Ryan bit, or
no? Well, Paul Ryan is a
change.
Is a sinister person. I happen to know, but also, not a genius and an ideologue at the same time, which is like a bad combination. Dumb ideologues are the scariest. But Mike Johnson seemed like kind of a moderately conservative, kind of sincere, decent guy. Maybe he would babysit your kids and do an okay job, unlike Paul Ryan. But he immediately just becomes a tool of CIA and Jake Sullivan and the Biden administration. Like, how did that happen so fast?
Well, one of the things he claims, which I don't believe is true, and I have reason to say this, is that he says he went in a skiff. Like, he's had some 180-degree turns on some things, like, for instance, whether you need a warrant to spy on Americans using the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, 702 program. Well, he used to be on Judiciary Committee with me and Jim Jordan, trying to reform that, trying to get...
So he understood what it was.
He knew completely what we were talking about. He's an attorney too, right? And he knows the Constitution. He knows this is required, but he claims he spent time in a skiff and he learned skiff, that's secure, compartmentalized information facility or something. It's where we go. We have to leave our phones locked up, no staff in there. He claims he spent time in skiff and learned things that changed his mind. Here's the problem, Tucker. I was in the skiff with him. Like, we had DNI, not just the current DNI, but the former DNI, John Radcliffe, Trump's DNI. We had CIA. We had FBI. We even had a FISA judge in there, and we spent 3.5 hours. It was a 4-hour meeting, and after 3.5 hours, it's basically a psyop where they're just trying to beat you down and do the things. And I was like, this is ridiculous. They didn't give us one example of any time ever since FISA was created that getting a warrant would have kept them from solving or preventing an act of terrorism. They gave hypotheticals, but they had no specific.
And I think FISA has been in place since 1978, since the 70s. Anyway.
Right.
So almost 50 years. And they couldn't give you one example?
Not one example. Now, they also expanded it after 9/11 and to do the program to go against civilians, to spy on civilians. And actually that product came out of the Judiciary Committee. Here's another place where the speaker betrayed us. FISA 702 was created by John Conyers and Jim Sensenbrenner. Conyers was the chairman and Sensenbrenner was the ranking member. And what Mike Johnson said this year was, well, even though the Judiciary Committee created this and is responsible for overseeing it, I'm going to let the Intel Committee bring the bill to the floor without warrants in it. It wasn't even their jurisdiction. They have jurisdiction over FISA as long as it's for the CIA, but not for the FBI. So that was frustrating. But
it's shocking. It's shocking.
It is shocking. So he said,
like end of civil liberties level stuff. So
yes,
yes, but it's not like he learned new information in the skiff.
No, he did not. I was there.
So what? So that's a
like,
lie.
That's the problem, right?
Right.
The fact that I was there.
Right. So that's
telling
a lie.
people on your show that I was there for 3.5 hours. And go ask Mike Johnson. He'll say, yep, he was there 3.5 hours.
So what is the truth? What do you think changed?
I think he's kind of a lost ball in tall weeds. I think he's in a position of power he never imagined he would get to at this point in his life. He's not done anything in private practice or political arena that's prepared him for this. He took the job with a very small staff. He didn't have people to put in all positions on the field, and he had to accept a lot of suggestions in areas he didn't know a whole lot about, although he gets no pass on FISA.
Yes.
He gets no pass on Ukraine because he does, as you pointed out, he doesn't even know how many casualties have been incurred on the Ukrainian side. I mean, he's the second person in line for president after Kamala Harris. This is scary to me. He's basically getting moved around.
It's crazy. You said nothing he did in his life before this prepared him for it. But that itself may be kind of a more charitable explanation because
I'm trying to be charitable.
I mean,
I got to go back to work with
nothing in your life prepared you for this. So just for those who don't know, you went to MIT, your high school girlfriend joined you at MIT, you married her while she was still there. And then together you started a company based on a very sophisticated invention that you came up with, maybe the first of about 30 patents that you now have. You ran this company for a long time, then you moved back to Kentucky. And a lot of things happen and you end up running for Congress. So that's not the background.
Well, so nothing in the political arena, but in my private life, I raised $32 million of venture capital and I swam with the sharks.
Yeah.
Like I had lots of moral dilemmas in the course of creating that company. I could have taken money off the table and gone and done other things, but instead I felt a commitment to my staff and to other investors. I had investors who said, if you'll just shit can that guy you hired as president, we'll double our investment. And I'm like, no, he's my partner. I'm not like, he helped me get to this point. I'm not going to abandon him.
Good for you. Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.